You think it was hard to keep the bad guys out of your shop before? In the age of cordless and corded and brushless cut-off wheels and grinders, it's hard to keep anybody out of any place that they want to get. An angle grinder it might be the most versatile tool you can have in the shop. It's certainly the tool that can get you in trouble fastest. I've had them for a long time. I just added this to the fleet. This is a brushless 13 amp electric brake wonder. Let's talk about the things you can do with an angle grinder that you probably can't do with anything else, and the things you darn sure better remember if you want to have both your eyes and all your digits when you're done with the project. So here's the low-hanging fruit about safety. These cut-off wheels that you just saw me cut that chain apart with, they are fantastic, but they are thin and they spin super fast and they're brittle. If you ever drop one of these, throw it away. If anybody ever steps on it, throw it away, because what you don't want to ever have happen is come up to 9,000 RPMs with one of these things and have it fly apart, because it will stick into your body. There are horror stories of people who have pieces of these cutoff wheels lodged in their body, maybe in contact with an artery or not. The next thing is loose clothing, especially with wire brushes. My dad was using a wire brush years ago with a 9-inch big heavy Black & Decker, Yes, 9-inch wheel, big cut brush, tangled up with a sweater and sucked itself right into his forearm. Nasty scar. Nate may or may not have a scar in a particular place, which would be the last place you would want to have a scar. So pay attention, and if you're using something that's going to want to reach out and grab you, put something on that's going to make it harder to reach out and get grabbed. Okay, guards. You guys have busted my chops before because I'm a bit of a hypocrite about guards. I was talking to my friend Brian Brown, who works at Convey, big fabrication shop. He said, you just got to get used to having guards if you're grinding or cutting, because in Oregon, if an OSHA inspector walks in and you don't have a guard and you're grinding or cutting, every grinder in the shop is assumed to not have a guard, and every grinder in the shop gets the same fine. Now, he tells me that in Oregon, if you're sanding, flap disc, this doesn't have to be guarded because it is just removing incremental bits, right? But if you are cutting or wire brushing, buddy, you better think about how you're going to guard yourself, and more importantly, guard the guy next to you. Now, cutoff discs are not the only implements that can be damaged by dropping. You see this? This is a snag wheel. This is a carborundum for really grinding off heavy beads and, really removing some stock. Somewhere along the line, that apparently got dropped. What that means is, before I fire that bad boy up, I'm going to hold it underneath the fabricating table and start it slow and just make sure that the integrity of that thing's not compromised, because however much you don't want one of these things flying apart, you don't want one of these flying apart either. Now, all of that to say, not every stone is created equal. This is for masonry, green masonry, but the max RPM is obliterated. My new DeWalt turns 9,070 RPMs. I have no idea if this is made. Yeah, there's nothing on here that's going to tell me if I should put that on that thing and pull the trigger. So you know what? I'm not gonna. I'm using this old cathead piece of form hardware to illustrate one of the most typical use cases, and that is there's a bolt or a nut that's galded. It's either rounded off by abuse with a crescent wrench, the corners are all folded over, or it's rusted in place and you can't get a hold of the bottom side. Well, and you may already know this, but these cutoff wheels make it so easy to put a slot in there. So it doesn't take much imagination to see that even the head of a carriage bolt could be slotted so a big screwdriver could be run in there to impact that one way or the other. And then if nothing is going to do you any good except to get it out or off, that's easy. Now, at the risk of flogging this a little too long, that's a piece of 1-inch plowshare. That's a construction cable, 7-strand, very strong. In the past, to get through that, a cutting torch is about the only thing, right? but not now. All right, so let me back up just a little bit. I've got 4 grinders here. 3 of them are yellow, 1 of them's blue. I have had for years a rat tail Makita grinder, just about like this. I burnt the brushes out of it a long time ago and switched over to this. This one belongs to Dustin Furch. I brought that to demo because it is a variable speed right here. That's handy. He uses that for polishing his concrete countertops. I've got a diamond wheel in there. I'll show you, if you're a tile guy, you may already know how nice a diamond wheel is in an angle grinder. This is a 9-inch flexible rubber pad with a 36 grit sanding disc on there. I'm going to show you what that'll do to a harmless piece of wood. All right, so this is another kind of a small paddle switch grinder. I'll show you what this funny little oak contrivance is on here. I use this periodically. What you are going to need to think about is, what am I going to do with this thing? How big, how heavy is the work I'm going to do? If you buy a 4-inch grinder or smaller, you don't know what the threads are going to be. They're going to be some sort of a metric. If it's 4-inch or bigger, 4, 4.5, 5, 6, 7, 9, this is a 5/8 11 pitch arbor on all of them, which means that the attachments become very standard. So think those thoughts. So in a funny old shop like this, where I've got all this stuff laying around, why did I get a new grinder? Well, because it is more powerful. The power to weight ratio is formidable. And when you say stop, it stops. As soon as you get off the trigger, 1 second or less, and that reduces the likelihood of tearing these wheels up because it's stopping in the cut instead of tearing itself up. So all of that to say, Brian was right. It's got a lanyard. It's got, I don't know, I like it. And I think I'm going to be glad to use it now in many cases where in the past I would have used this one. So if you're a log home builder or a live edge table builder, or you just need to make wood look kind of customized, get one of these big old rubber wheels, thread some sort of a coarse piece of sandpaper on there, and go wild. So angle grinders, of course you're thinking metal, and you're wondering why I'm fooling around with wood. Well, here's an example. This is a piece of twisted Damascus I've had laying around here for years. It's got a bunch of inclusions in it. I didn't do a great job on the twist. After you forge your Damascus, when you want to start building up the layers, you got to grind the scale off, because scale doesn't weld, only steel welds. So I'm going to use this cutoff disc, clip off one inclusion, and then show you what I used to do and see how much better this new DeWalt works with a nice sharp ceramic flap disc. We'll cut this off. Gone. So this is an old 15 amp, 6,000 RPM, heavy duty angle grinder, angle sander, from back before they were everywhere. And this is a 6-inch carborundum snag wheel. I mean, that's a man-made, very abrasive stone, just for doing rough work like this. This thing hurt my dad years ago. Let's see if I can get away without it hurting me. So, I don't know if I'm going to be able to save that bar or not, but I'm going to put a brand new ceramic flap disc on the other side with the new little Black & Decker and see how it compares. So if this is your first time with an angle grinder, depending on what kind you get, you may have got a spanner wrench like this to tighten down these friction wheels in the middle, except this one doesn't fit that wrench. But not to panic. Let's unplug it from the power source. So there's a detent on the back of this, and once you're unplugged, I get a little sloppy about that, and it's foolish. You just detent it, and then you can grab the wheel itself and the wheel itself will dislodge the wheel that's holding it, right? So let's take that on off. That's a nice little cutoff wheel. And we're going to thread this brand spanking new ceramic flap disc on there. And we don't need to tighten that up because the act of pulling the trigger is going to tighten that up. Make sense? It's going to bite, and we're going to be rubbing these Cubitron pieces of ceramic, I think that's what they're called, on the top of that Damascus billet, and we'll see how easily the scale comes off for this. Let's plug her in. All systems are go. Visor down. Now Brian says, and I believe, that the fact that that has enough power to hold your RPMs up reduces the wear on the flap disc. That's pretty good. And flatter, let's turn this over. Oh. There's what I did with that other stone. And there's what I did with this one in less time. Now in a metal shop, I mean, the equivalent in a woodworking shop is an orbital sander, right? I mean, it'll smooth things up and it'll clean things off and it'll remove paint if you give it long enough, and it'll cover a multitude of sins. But in a fab shop, there's all kinds of things you may need to remove. Now this old fab table is rusty, okay? This is a cup brush. That is a, what would you call that, a flat brush? Just a wire brush, twisted, tightly twisted. Not so tightly twisted, heavier diameter cup brush, and a big bad boy cup brush. These things will remove loose material like crazy. And I'm going to start with this. Now here's a note. With this grinder, Brian tells me, with any grinder, when you start whirling a wire brush, you better have something on that's going to stop the wires, or you're going to look like you've been playing with a porcupine when you're done. Eye shield's down. Took it right off. And I don't think it stuck any wires through my apron. Now let's see if I can unwind that. So what I do is I just grab a glove. And I hit the detent to anchor it. And then I start getting a little bit careful, because it will go into your finger a little bit. And it gets lighter. All right, cup brush. Let's put that on there. We're going to do the same thing, see if it behaves any differently. Same thing. Takes it right down to metal. No wires. But this is not going to last long. You can just see that they're going to wear away pretty quickly. Now this is a big, bad boy. And I think that probably the main difference is the diameter of the wires is greater. Maybe the carbon content is higher. You got tight twist inside there. You got loose, I don't know. I'm going to rub it on this thing a little bit. Then we're going to go over on that walnut and see how much more aggressive it is over there. Boy, it sounds like a fan. Let's touch it to that piece of wood a little bit and see what it does. Not a bad look. Fab shop meets wood shop. Cleaned her right up. So there's a million ways that an angle grinder can polish for you. I use it sometimes on swords, and it'll just, and you know, sheet metal, you can just buff it up. Stainless steel, you can buff it up like crazy. And this strip disc is good for that. I'm going to remove some of this old paint here. Let's see how this does. So that's pretty nice. I mean, it takes it right down right now. With a grinder, you don't need a tile saw all the time. Let's see how this works. Obviously, I'm not a tile guy, but a diamond wheel's a handy thing to have. I mean, one hand or two, pretty nice. I grabbed this little beauty, I don't know, Nate and I found it like 8 or 9 years ago when we made the Essential Blacksmith course, which is just a start up, just how to start blacksmithing with a bare minimum of tools, because this, you can rig this up to where it's kind of a bench grinder, it's a tool. You can put polishing wheels, you can put grinding wheels, you can put flap discs, you can put all kinds of things on there and clamp it in a vise. Just be a little creative. I mean, we drilled through there and ran, I think, a 3/8 bolt goes into the head, used a pipe clamp to lock it on there, and it'll do a lot. Didn't cost much, pretty handy if you got a vise. Bam, you got a bench grinder. We used it on an axe the other day. It'll actually sharpen an axe with a unitizing wheel, wherever that is. It doesn't matter. Find the grinder you need and then get that one and one or two more, because it's nice if you can just pick one up wherever you are in your shop. So, Dustin loaned me this guy. I already talked about that. Look at this. This is his assortment of diamond polishing pads for concrete countertops. I know less than nothing about it. Some are wet, some are dry, some are, hook and loop. There's a hook and loop that attaches to something. There's a smaller hook and loop. I don't know, but there has to be a reason that this thing will turn slow or turn fast. This is a profiling, think router. Think round over bit for a router. That would, I assume, round over a concrete counter or the edge of a pool deck. Dustin knows all that stuff. He does all that stuff. He's a master, and I appreciate him loaning this to me. So the upshot is this. It doesn't take much of an angle grinder, but it takes some angle grinder. And once you have it, if you keep your eyes open and protected, you're going to find a lot of things that you just couldn't do before that you can do now, and a lot of things that you got done before that you can do better just by having an angle grinder in the shop. Thanks for watching Essential Craftsman, and keep up the good work.